Here at the Art of Fatherhood, we are all about exercise. But how do you translate that to your kid without making them feel shame or guilt for what they might be doing? Hi, welcome back to the Art of Fatherhood. I'm Brian LaFauci.
And I'm Patrick Marino.
And today we are delving into the world of exercise and fitness with our kids. And, this started from a conversation where we're obviously very health conscious. We integrate it into a lot of the business things.
Clearly, our bodies are temples.
Bodies are temples.
My body is a temple, clearly.
Beautiful temple.
I have to edit these damn videos.
Apply the slimming filter.
Exactly. We cut us off from here to here.
But one of the things, one of the things that we do, obviously, we do promote all the time, and we try to do is exercise and be healthy. Like, we're always trying to work out or go to the gym or just do physical activity to stay healthy and exercise. And we try to expose our kids to that and motivate them to that same world. But inevitably, they grow, they get older, and their ability to do or not do that becomes very independent. And very quickly they fall into that age range and where it's like they're going to do what they want to do now. And I think today's discussion is, how do we set examples? How do we provide
setting examples would be a way to accomplish what we're trying to do, which is promote fitness in our kids, promote the idea that it's important, right?
How do we do it in a way where they like it, or try to expose them to things that they could like? And how do we also do it? I think the biggest factor here that I struggle with, and, Patrick, you can be my therapist today, because, how do we do it where we aren't feeling like we're shaming them? Like, because I do struggle with that a lot. I want so badly for all of my children's to live like healthy lives. And I so value the fact that starts early, and that pattern needs to start early, because at a certain point, you blink and you're in a position where you're have done damage, long-term damage to your body for not being healthy or taking care of yourself. Damage that sometimes you can't reverse. You can only just manage at a certain point, right?
Yep.
And I don't want, so badly as a dad, I don't want any of them to get to that point. And I struggle with when I feel like, they should be doing more, and I think with my kids, it's the spectrum right now. Out of the 5, I would, 3 of them seem to really value that continued lifelong exercise and health, and the other 2, it's on the fence. And I think you can really I can turn them off pretty quick by overly focusing on it. Or think about, are there things that your parents used to do? Like my parents, there are always things that our parents used to tell us all the time where we got so tired of hearing it that we literally it doesn't matter if we're 30, 40 years old, we just are not listening to it.
This is it's like anything, right? It's like with all of our, that was too broad. That was a terrible statement. It's like with a lot of what we talk about with fatherhood or developing business plans, it's being intentional, but also understanding that it's not 100% in your control.
It's probably 100% out of our control.
Right, exactly.
As they get older, it is 100%.
And so that's where it's about using different techniques to, whether it's motivation or model, right, or teach. Sometimes it's explicitly teaching. Here is this. Here's why we do this, and here's what you accomplish. And other times it's showing. Right? It's here's what I do. Why do you do that, Dad? Because of this, that, and the other, And then there's motivations, giving them a goal to try and accomplish, right? There's all these different techniques that can help. I think one of the things that you and I talked about before we started this is some of it's very unfairly genetic, And so it's right now, and we all knew these kids, right, that were we talked about it before the podcast. We know kids who are chubby and now aren't. We know as adults, we knew the opposite, right? Very, very fit. And now we're slobbish, right? You get to, you just don't care anymore. You get to a certain age, you get slobbish.
Is that a country? Slobbish.
I think
Slobbish.
You're in the European Championships right now. The Slobbish are playing.
The Slobbish.
Portuguese. Yeah. But like what the challenge with kids in particular is not just that some of it's genetic, is that like sometimes it is their particular biology and their particular point in time. Like one thing that happens, like I've noticed this, and I've had mostly boys, but it happens with girls. So I coach girls, obviously, coached girls, is that you see like kind of like all of a sudden they kind of start looking chubby for a second. And then all of a sudden, like they have their growth spurt. It's like there's something biological there where it's like you start to kind of accumulate, and then all of a sudden you just, like my freaking my older boys who are not genetically or biologically related to me. The middle one in particular, I remember him having a pot belly for like a hot second. Must have been like a summer or something like that. It's like, if you got a pot belly, like, and his guy, I mean, he weighs nothing. He's like, he's a pole. So a lot of it's just genetic, and a lot of it, like, that's why I think it's like, it's very important for us as parents, because we look at our kids as reflections of our parenting ability. We're like, how did we let this kid get to this point? So and I think like you didn't freaking do anything. You know what I mean? Like
that
you
is
didn't
part
do
of the
anything.
discussion.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that it takes your responsibility out of being intentional about imparting good habits and getting them to where they need to get. But some of it's just completely out of your control.
Right.
You know?
Right. And that's where the balance is of, I guess, in the struggle, because I relate to this struggle, is separating the act of instilling patterns versus the current physical, like, that's what the child looks like.
Yeah.
And taking those two and making them separate things can be tough at times, right?
Yeah.
Because just like you said, if I instill a pattern of, hey, listen, you got to take care of yourself, and I model it, right? And mentor it, right? Do all those things. So they see that in the house we eat well, and we're conscious of what we put in our body, and we take vitamins, and we do all these things to be healthy when we're older and have longevity and all these good things, and to feel good in our clothes, just feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And we do the hard things of going to the gym when we don't want to, right? And so we model that. But then at times, we may look and say the physical representation of our kids might be, like you said, we might look and be like, oof, they're getting maybe a little overweight, and
when you put two and two together with like their current lifestyles, like we live in the modern world where, especially if you've got boys, I'm sure this is true with girls as well. I just don't have as much experience with that. Like where they're just sitting around watching TV, or sitting around, they don't do that anymore. No one sits around and watches TV anymore. They sit around and like are on their phone and they play video games.
Right.
And you're just like, and then you correlate that with their current little slight chubbiness that they have.
Of
and
course.
You're like, how did we get here? What can I do about it? Instead of like neither one of those things maybe necessarily correlating with anything.
Right. You can say like, you've been sitting, I say this sometimes, I'm like, you've been sitting in that chair, like playing a video game or something, for like 8 hours today, right? So you've been sitting there for like 8 hours today. And then like I'll send them little like video clips, right? Which is so passive, right? But it's like, listen, I don't want to say like don't play with your friends online. I don't want to say that. But what I do want to say is movement is super important. So what can you do? Like how can you like schedule in to just get up and move for a little bit so that you're not just being stagnant sitting there and doing all those things. And even with those kind of comments, I feel sometimes I'm being very much like I'm being judgmental. They're taking this as me judging them. Like, oh, they're fat or they're this or they're that, right? They're taking it that way when the reality is that I just want them to understand, to know what I know what research is showing, that, hey, listen, like if you do A, B, and C, you very much so, as you get later in life, that's going to result in these bad things or these negative things, right?
Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know if there's a good answer to any of this, but I do think that the best way to approach it is probably from a health perspective and to just teach, right? Because again, like what's happening with them currently isn't necessarily going to be what's going to happen with them overall. Right? We all go through periods of our youth when we're more active than not, or we're you know, like, or you know, like we've talked about before, you've got the kid who's a 3-sport athlete, and then before you know it, they're a dad, and they don't do sports anymore, and they just, their whole body goes to shit, right? So some of it is just 100% based on where you, especially with kids, where they're at right now, not where they're going to be. So that's why I think that the way to do it is to impart the reasons that are always going to serve them through life, and not project what you're going through, which I think is really hard too.
Very hard.
Yeah, because like what we're doing, like me, for example, like I have to, like I do have to monitor my fitness. Like if I don't monitor my fitness, I will freaking be not very healthy.
Not
right?
fit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so like I don't want to take, and I know that I can eat a certain way, and it works for me. But do I want to shove that down my kid's brain, who's not ready for it? It might not work for him. He's got different needs. He's growing a different way than I. Our kids are different than us. Even as much as they're genetically similar, they are not us.
Right.
And what we don't want to do is say, well, this is what I do. This is what you do.
Right.
What you're supposed to do is like sort of teach them how to be the best they can be, you know? And that's really hard in this realm in particular.
It is.
You know, and I think that the best way to do it is to talk about health. Like to me, like inactivity, I was just looking it up here while you're talking about it, but there's definitely like some research now about inactivity just being freaking awful.
Horrible.
Like
That's what I mean.
inactivity is like one of the worst things that you can like
Try to get your 13-year-old to relate to research.
Well,
though.
yeah, but I mean, like in like what's the 13-year-old boy's life like right now?
Right.
You know, like what do most of them do? They're on technology. They're playing Fortnite. I mean, like that's just what they do. So it's like, how do you take them out of it? And I have fit older boys who don't play as many video games now. Like they still do, but they kind of grew out of it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I don't know how much of that was us getting on them about it, or how much was that just the natural progression of deciding like I have different interests now. Like instead of just playing video games with my friends, I have girls, I have work, I have other things I'm interested in. I want to grow up. You know what I mean? Like I want to achieve something. Like maybe there was things that we did to make them want to do those things. But like that's where I think as being a parent, like sometimes you just get stuck in where you're at and you just have the guilt. It's like, oh man, I struggle with this and I want them to struggle with it. Or you know, I feel bad for them. Like what happens if they're, just being honest, like what happens if they're fat and they get made fun of? You know, what happens if they're fat and they don't get the mate that they want? You know what I mean? Like that will kind of suck. What can
the mate that they want? That was like a lot. I'm gonna sing a Lion King song if they don't find their mate. It's like we just went National Geographic. Look at the young boy looking for his mate in the woods.
Yeah, but like what? I mean, that's a big part of it, though, right? It's like that's what you think as a parent. Like what if they're stupid stuff like that? Not stupid. Like it's very natural to think
I agree.
that way.
Well, is it bad as me as a parent that now my son is definitely at the age where like finding a mate, we're going to use that term the rest of the podcast is fucking great. Finding a mate is important to him. And like
mating drives mating behavior and mating choices drives freaking human behavior. It explains most of human behavior, I think.
Pussy didn't exist, I would never leave bed. I would be like, somebody
you want
feed
to
me
just
through it.
Explain the world of humans. That's primarily it.
No, I agree. I've said that for years. It's like that's all. That's all we're driven by, anyways. But
as a dad, you're looking at your boy and you're like, well, I want to make sure that he's like getting pussy, right? That's what we're gonna change it to instead of finding a mate, it's gonna be getting pussy.
Except for I have daughters, so like for them, it's like it's the opposite. It's like.
You don't want any boys near them.
No, stay away. No, but I think what's interesting is I did have this moment recently where I was, because of my son's at that age, where I'm sitting back and I'm like, all right, I wonder if everything I've been trying to feed him, mentor and model to him, now that there's this other component coming in where he wants to, he wants to date girls and he's gone on a couple dates and stuff like that. if that is going, because what started happening now, and you could guess this. All right, we'll play a little game like we did last time. What couple behaviors you think?
I always play terrible in these games.
No, but you'll do good in this one.
Just like
what couple behaviors you think magically changed when he started to care a lot more about what girls thought? What do you think? What do you think would be the natural things he started to pay more attention to?
his smell,
Excellent. You're 1 for 1. Good on.
his what he wore.
You get it, right?
Yeah.
Like how he did his hair, like, right. All these things naturally where before he could give a shit. Now all of a sudden. So what are we doing? Well, at that age, we're starting to like be very reflective. Mm-hmm. And part of that's body image. And unfortunately, you can like it or dislike it. And I think our society tries to like, pretend like these two things don't exist. But a major reason why we want to stay healthy, top 2, is going to be body image. So body image and then feeling good and longevity. Those are the top 2 reasons why we do all these things, why we exercise, we eat
Productivity.
And what?
Productivity, number 3.
Energy, productivity, like that. Is that what you mean?
Well, no, I mean, I think that like longevity means we live a long life. Productivity means, can I get shit done right now?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of the
absolutely.
body hacking, a lot of intermittent fasting stuff is like an energy hack.
Yeah, exactly. So, so a big component of it, you can't ignore the fact that a big component of it is how we look. And when we start to play the mirror game more, which usually is because we start to think about like, well, how's my mating ritual doing?
Exactly.
And I'm curious because now I'm just watching to see like, okay, all of those conversations about, hey, listen, during non-sport seasons, you want to stay active and blah, blah, blah. Is that kind of modeling going to now take hold? Because like you said, now there's these factors there that are making you think about it yourself, and it's been modeled for you how to do it. The biggest flaw we can make is not modeling how to do it.
Right.
Right? If we never model how to do it for our kids, then we're definitely not giving them a ton of opportunity to adopt a routine that works.
Well, you fall into the trap of the do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
Which is like, that's like the hypocritical, and kids in particular see through that. It's like, well, Dad, you don't do this, you don't do that.
I mean, you're
asking me to do it.
Right. I mean, your kid witnesses you get on your bike and ride to the gym, work out and ride home. Subtle as of a thing as that is, they see it. It sticks with them. They're like, like dad rides his bike. He'd hop in his car, a nice little convertible and get there, but he rides his bike. Why? He's trying to, So I think modeling those things, and you talk about, the food that's in your house, right? You don't keep a lot. Same thing, we try to model by sitting at the dinner table, look at what I'm putting on my plate, right?
Right.
What are you going to put on we don't.
Food is fuel. Here's what food does,
Mm-hmm.
versus like just eating for enjoyment.
Yeah.
Not that eating for enjoyment is a bad thing, but just in general, just food is fuel, right? This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to grow. We're trying to be strong.
Yeah, it's very
trying to be productive.
It's very non-judgmental to say to your kid, like, oh, you got a soccer game in 2 hours. Now's about the time you should eat, and here's what you should eat and why. Right? There's no judgment behind that. It's really educational.
Right.
And the question is, like, if they hear that over and over, do they eventually grasp it? Mm-hmm. Right? And no. And sometimes it takes a long time.
And sometimes they rebel.
Oh, absolutely.
And especially for a kid who's not us. So, like, a lot of times, like, especially, we all know, like, we're having not opposite issues, but, like, my boy is, I don't know what his fat percentage is, but it's very, very low.
Right.
And all the boys that I helped raise were similar. So it's like, what do you tell them about what they can and can't eat? Like most of the time, they freaking like can do whatever they want, and it doesn't matter. Like there's really, and it's not the same for a kid for their performance. It is somewhat. Right? You do have sugar highs, and you do have bad times to eat, and like those things are true, but not as true for some kids who's just they're different. They're built different. Their metabolism is different because of the way they're growing. Like they're growing no matter what. I mean, like they're like we have nowhere to grow. So our energy output and input is very, very different. Theirs is a lot of the shit you put shit in, they're still gonna grow. It like doesn't matter.
Dance party.
I know, seriously.
We got a dance party today. We had a dance party at the studio today. See how good you are at editing.
Yeah,
Patrick.
we'll
see what you got.
We'll see.
Test your editing skills today.
But I think that's part of it too. It's like if they can't, like you need to set up. We just talked about this. You need to set up environments where the learning means something. And a lot of times with this discussion, the learning doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Because at certain points in their development or who they are throughout their youth, what they put in and what they put out isn't going to affect how they look.
Yeah.
And sometimes it does.
Absolutely.
And they can't, like, if you were like, if you want to say, for example, you want to do resistance training and you want to build up your muscles, for some kids it's very, very hard because they're growing so fast.
Yeah.
Right. It's like whatever they put in, like they couldn't possibly eat enough protein to freaking grow muscles. And some kids are muscular freaking out of the womb.
Yep.
They don't have to work out at all.
Yep.
So it's like that's very challenging to then, how do you then teach that?
Yeah.
Which is why I think that as a parent, you have to kind of take yourself out of it. You got to do the best you can, model. Hopefully they take some of it out of it, but not beat yourself up over failure.
Yeah.
It's like, why is my kid sitting on the couch playing video games? Well, I don't know. Because everybody's doing it.
Yeah. Right.
It's like you're not unique. Maybe it's not you.
Absolutely. No, I mean,
your kid's a little pudgy. It's not because they're freaking eating poorly. It's just because that's genetically that's where they're at.
It is funny. My daughter is about 3 years older than my son, and her boyfriend is in very good shape. I mean, he eats like double meals all the time.
I used to freaking have a bacon double cheeseburger before my soccer games.
Yeah,
every day.
And so my son sometimes is like, "How can you eat like that and still be, I'm like, dude, he spends an hour and a half at the gym every day. Like, so.
Right, but that might not be true.
No, but it is true.
No, I know, but I mean, that might not be why.
But it could be, right, 100% could be, but you can't discount that fact that every day all those, he's at a time when your body is looking to grow, he's giving it all the food it needs and then training.
Yeah.
So even though those two kids might go on different paths with body structure, the reality is he's doing the thing.
Yeah.
Right? So you may not look like that if you did the thing, but you would definitely be increasing your overall health, wellness, all that stuff if you did that thing.
Right.
So you're only looking at it like, well, if I eat like that, okay. Well, you can't control everything, but you certainly could control the fact that he's going to the gym an hour and a half a day, and if you did that, it would help, not hurt.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's all about what's in your control, what's not. Genetics are not in your control, but what you choose to do as far as promoting your health and wellness, right? And is. And so it's just kind of showing, but the way he looked at it was very external. He looked at it like you just said. He looked at, he can eat like that and still look lean or leaner than me.
Yeah.
Maybe it is genetic. You're 100% right. Or maybe.
Genetic and biological now.
Yeah.
Because that kid won't be able to do that.
Right.
Maybe.
Exactly. But the pattern is, right? And also, when you go get your cholesterol checked, if you do that for 20 years, even if you're quote unquote lean, your cholesterol might be through the roof.
Oh,
right?
no, yeah.
Right?
I know plenty of people in my age range who are on freaking cholesterol meds who are really lean and actually fit.
Right.
Because it's genetic.
Right.
It's not something you can control as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's a difficult subject. I mean, I know for me it's more try and take the long-term approach, try and impart this idea. I think the inactivity is something I try and discourage as much as I can.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I do it well. I mean, like you said, your kids are in sports.
Right.
My boy's in sport, in a sport, 3 or 4 times a week he's doing something.
Right.
So, is that enough activity? Probably not. Like, if you look at it, I don't know, like from my armchair evolutionary perspective, we evolved in a time where we probably had to be much more active on a daily basis.
Yep.
Freaking foraging and looking for food and just moving, migrating. What humans did.
We're only a couple 100 years away from the fact that everyone was out hunting for their own food.
Yeah.
We're not, we are
and
very
moving.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't stay. We had to move. We had to go from here.
You had to move to stay warm.
Yeah.
You had to move to Yeah.
Yeah, and like
different.
we just look like we're different. Like you just look at pictures of people from 200 years ago.
Right.
We're different. We
Yes.
look different, and it's
Yes.
our food system and it's our sedentary lifestyle.
Right.
Those are the two main factors.
Yep.
So, what do we do about that? You know, it's like, okay, it's like, well, the statistics, I guess, obesity kills people, inactivity kills people. So,
And if it
let's
doesn't
watch
kill
what we
people, it makes their quality of life as they get older, quality of life can go down dramatically if you don't take care of yourself.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's harder to get moving. It's like, for me, it's like, I want to be active with my kid. I don't want to be like the dad who can't move, the dad who can't, I don't want
Right.
to be ineffective so like, that's what I kind of tell him to a certain extent.
Right.
It's like, look, this is why I do it. And this is why you should care about it.
Right.
Because you want
Right.
to have a life and food is fuel, and you want to be more productive. You want to feel good. And I do think that some of that works. But again, like my kid's a little younger, so there's going to be the rebellious stage. Like right now, he correlates things that I taught him because he doesn't have any other way of thinking about it. He'll be like, Dad, I think I had too much sugar. You know what I mean? It's like, well, maybe he did have too much sugar. Like, is the way he feels. Like, Dad, I need to drink more water. Like, his mom's big in hydration. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I definitely not feeling it. I think I need to drink more water. So, like, whether or not that's true or not, something we've said has stuck.
Has stuck. Yeah.
But he's not in the real rebellion. He could go through the rebellious stage too.
Right.
So like, you don't know. Like, it's like, just do the best you can. Do you feel better now, Mr. LaFauci?
I do.
It's good because this is a good therapy session.
It has been a very good therapy session. I think we all struggle with it. We all struggle with. I was talking to another father at my son's soccer game last night, and it's funny. You talked about early in the podcast. You were talking about growth spurts and stuff like that. I looked at him and his son. I was like, "Your boy just went through a growth," because you could see it.
Oh yeah,
My buddy's really a big kid.
your freaking kid grew recently ish.
But you know how you could see it with the other one. The other one was like, my buddy's tall.
Yeah.
6'2", 6'3". He's a big kid, a big guy. And his son is now sprouting out to, his height. But what I noticed, his son was like rail thin. So you could tell he just grew into that. Now he's going to fill, he'll fill.
My little nephew godson was the little freaking pudgy thing and like whatever one of the lowest percentiles of height.
Yeah.
But his freaking dad and his dad's family are all 6 whatever foot tall.
Yeah.
He's not going to be in the lowest percentile for height.
Right.
And he's not going to be a chub. He's
Yeah.
all of a sudden he just grew.
Yeah.
It's like, so like, that's why I think it's really important that you don't take adult values about some of this stuff and project them out.
I like how you said that. I think the big takeaway from today's is teaching, modeling, mentoring, but not putting adult values onto our kids. I think that's a brilliant way of kind of summing this up. I like it. You did well today, Patrick.
Like, you feel good about your therapy session?
Yeah. I think we should go downstairs to the dance party.
What's going on?
I love it. Love it. All right, want to wrap?
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
All right, good stuff. For dads out there looking to support their kids, the best thing you can do, model and mentor, and try to take your own shit out of the equation. All right, I'm Brian LaFauci.
Patrick Marino.
Until next time.
Thank you.